Hi, it's Padum from Sri Lanka. So today with this video, I would like to talk about the best wireless system which is for an affordable price and the best that you can go for when it comes to, if you're a guitar and a bass player, I think I highly recommend this kind of wireless unit. So in order to do that, with the help with all my friends who are the experts in the industry, who knows about the wireless systems, so they helped me out and it took about 2 or 3 days just before I decided if I'm going for this Samson Airline 77, which is the perfect solution that I found finally, because as guitar players we really don't like the fact that we go through wireless systems because it was not a very good, you really couldn't trust on that, when I especially spoke to many of my friends and even during my journey of playing guitar. There were many brands recommended by many people, but I have been using them for some time, but it really didn't work for me for some reason, which I found that I didn't have that drive, that sustain, or the response was not very accurate. And so finally, with all these years, after more than 20 odd years, I'm finally happy with the Samson Airline 77. So in order to do that, today I'll be going through my guitar pedal, which is the Mooer GE 300, and the Samson Airline, the receiver, and of course the transmitter, and just a basic Fender Strat. Little modifications, but hope to talk about it later. So I had many questions in order to what should I go when it comes to the transmitter. So transmitter was a big problem because I was never comfortable with the body packs that we used to have, because one thing, it was not very comfortable, especially when I had to perform for outdoor shows and just wearing this behind my strap, and it was a mess. That's how. But it's personal. Sometimes it works for someone else, but not for me. I just want to be free as possible. So there are two types of transmitters when it comes to the Samson Airline 77, which is the AF1 and the AG1. So, but here, this is the AG1 for the if you're a Gibson player, just like this. It's a type of Gibson guitar. So if you're going for that kind of guitar, I think the AG1 would be the best. So powered by a AAA battery, which you use it in your day-to-day when it comes to your remotes and all this. So you can use a remote, a good alkaline or something like that, which I really don't want to mention few brands here, but I think you know it. You can even use rechargeable batteries. Works for 14 hours, and the best part about this is you get the red light indication, and it works for 2 hours. So I think you've got plenty of time to change your battery if it's that. So this is the Fender style guitar. So normally in general, the best would be the AF1, but I really don't have the transmitter to show you that right now, because I selected the AG1, which I will explain you why. So it's slightly different, but the first question, it's identical. There's no such difference when it comes to your response or the signal, the strength, everything is 100% the same. So the AG1 will work for this type of guitars if you've got, where you get underneath and it just fits perfect like this, and you can always, just like a Gibson guitar, and you will, this where you will be your input for your transmitter. So in my case, sometimes I had to try for one day just using this transmitter, because Fender can be little tricky when it comes to this area. But if you're not a person that you're moving your hand too much, whereas you're going to damage this, so I don't think it would be a problem for you. The reason I went for this personally, because this is the only guitar I have the Fender type, the jack socket over here, but my bass guitar and my other guitars, my Charvel, the Jackson 7, everything is a Gibson type guitar. So finally I decided why not? I will go for this. And if you talk about the transmitter, sorry, the receiver, I highly recommend that you go for very good cables uh, in order to get a very good signal. It shouldn't be, it shouldn't have, you don't, it, even if you're going through main PE or even an amplifier, I would always recommend you go for the best guitar cables, not just the standard keyboard cables, because one thing, the response and the sustain, there will be so much of decay issues, and it would be the best that if you can get very good cables, something that I really recommend. I really like Vox Cables, and it's excellent, and some of the Fender cables also. So if you want to get a good signal out of your receiver to main PA or amplifier, I recommend that you go for good XLR cables if you're going through main PA. Now, finally, after 20 years, I have decided through this Mooer pedal that I'm not going to use an amplifier because it has a more of a synth engine. Later on, I will do a video on this. So finally, I have decided to go through floor wedges, which was very difficult at the start. But there comes it was very handy that the fact that I decided to go for wireless. So I can walk out, I can decide on my tone, I can do my own EQ, and I can finally get that exact fatness and that the body on just like how we get on a standard guitar amplifier. So go for good XLR cables, go for very good jack guitar cables. So, and after that, the most important thing is on this receiver. It can be very personal. It can be depending on your touch, how you play. You can set up a volume level, and as long as it doesn't peak here with the red light over here, I think you are good to go. And certain frequency channels, if you want to adjust, there you get it, and you get this small little tool that you can adjust, and you can find your sweet spot. So which is very convenient, and there wouldn't be any hassle at all. So finally, with this video, and I would like to thank many people um in order who helped me to discover uh, about the Samson Airline 77, basically the best wireless system. So, and if I talk about the bass guitar, so the bass, we got a little issue for this, but you can work around that. So in general, most of the frequencies you really don't match, because the guitar and bass can be little tricky when it comes to the low end, because we don't need to generate so much of low end on a guitar in general, but you need a certain low end, but this is specially designed for guitar. But for bass also, when I reviewed in the have checked the reviews in their site and everything, bass works perfect. The only thing is, for when you play the bass, you get a slight hiss on the high end, which my dear friend Pradeep will explain about how to get rid of that sound. You can work around that without a problem, because now I have been I had 2 or 3 gigs, with this wireless, and for sure we didn't cover 14 hours. So still, with my practicing hours, even at home, it's so comfortable. I can just walk around with this, and finally, I don't have the hassle of having a cable next to me. So you can basically try out how it works for you, but I highly recommend this. So in Sri Lanka, I bought these at Multi Electronics in Colombo. So I would really like to thank Mr. Osanda and Mr. Dewaka. I sat with them. I went to their store for about more than an hour. So I've been noodling around with my guitar, checking all my tones, my synth tones, my distortion to overdrive and clean everything. It was really perfect, and they were so patient, and they really helped me out with that. And I really like to thank Osanda, sorry, and Devaka for helping me out to choose the best wireless system that I could afford. Um, so check it out, guys. It's really worth it. It's really worth it. And if you have any questions, please you can question down, the comments. You can question anything, and I can always get into it when I got time, and I can always answer questions. But right now, because I had loads of questions, but I don't think you will have that problem, because everything you need to know, I can answer, and I have given you a basic description of how it works and how you should start with, and I think it's perfect. You can just go for it. So my dear friend DeepJohn will explain about the bass I was talking about.
Alright guys, so I'm here to demonstrate to you how the bass works with the Samson Airline 77. Pradeep is going to be playing the bass behind me, and I'm going to be just demonstrating you how it works on the DAW, and how it how the frequency response is, and what sort of frequencies I recommend for you to cut. Also, disclaimer, I would suggest you use a headphone or a really good pair of studio monitors to listen to this, to get the proper image of the sound. Alright, let's start with a small feature that is there on the transmitter. That is, there is a 15 dB pad on the transmitter. So how that will be useful is, in this point, in this example, the bass is coming in a little hot. The signal is a bit hot, and it's going to be feedbacking. It's going to be peaking on the receiver end. So, Dhason, if you can play a bit.
So just play an open E.
Right, as you can see, it's peaking right there, and the sound is completely stopping. Right. So what we're going to do is I'm going to mute here, and Pradeep is going to show you what the transmitter, how you cut off 15 dB on the transmitter.
So if you take this, the same AG transmitter, and just right behind the camera, and these where you get the 15 dB
dip switch.
That's it. It's off.
Right.
Okay, connected.
So right, cool. Now let's check the signal, how it's going. Right. So as you can hear, the signal has dropped drastically. I'm going to boost the volume up just for our pleasure. Alright, there you go. So now there is a clean signal. There's no distortion anymore. There's a clean, perfect signal coming from a hot instrument like the bass, what we got right here. Right. So secondly, there is a small...
Try maybe a slap to see.
Right. So that sounds good, but if you can hear, I'll ask Dhason to play a small bit of information on the high end. You will hear, when he plays the higher strings, you will hear sort of like a small baggy kind of a noise, like a very plasticky kind of noise on the high end, like above 8K. You'll start hearing like a small, breezy noise. Okay, if you can just
some harmonics.
So right, now I'm here on the EQ section on my Antelope audio. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to try and take out that baggy noise that kind of disrupts the signal. So this happens mainly not because of the transmission being poor quality or anything, but it's basically bass not having that frequency range, but the transmitter is transmitting all that information. So we don't want that information, so we're going to try and take all of that unwanted information out from a basic graphic EQ. Right, so what I'm doing here, I'm going to take out 10K. Right about there, I'm going to use a low pass filter. So I'm just cutting all that information above 10K, because for a bass instrument, you wouldn't need that. Okay, if you can play the same kind of riffs.
Want to play a slap or just high?
Just a couple of harmonics again. Right, I'm going to keep going back and forth now, just for you guys to hear.
Same thing.
Right. So there you go, guys. So I think if you guys are using this, the Samson Airline 77 live on stage, or even for recordings or any other purpose, it's best to, if you're using the bass instrument, it's best to take out some of that high frequency, because you really don't need that transmission, that frequency range. Mainly because bass instrument doesn't have that frequency. Yeah, that's about it for bass instrument.
So I hope we got all these areas covered when it comes to your doubts and your questions. And if you have any further questions, please mention in the comments so that I will answer you without fail. That won't be a problem. But still, I would really recommend something like this, because after all these years, I think finally I am happy with the Samson Airline 77. But I don't know, if I'm not mistaken, I think if they're out of production, still the 88 will work too, because I don't think it would be a problem at all. Right? So until next time.